Hey, boys and girls, are we ready to finally do this? Yes, I know. It's been that long. You're already wrapped up in Reese and everybody else. Yeah. Yeah. Hey, let's go. Come on, Nicole.
True patriot love in all thy sons command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north, strong and free. From far and wide, oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
On guard.
On God. I'm pretty sure they say on God.
God keep our land glorious and free.
Get your foot on your own box.
Oh Canada, we stand on
Annie, I'll
guard.
put your ears in your bag when I'm done.
Is he forgetting the words?
Oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
I think it was more than 7 yesterday.
Oh, I don't care.
It's just like, what did I do? I know nothing. Got nothing to do with me.
Too short.
Too short.
Thank you.
There's people's there today. So from 7 seconds to 5 seconds of television time.
Yeah, we did the track description yesterday, too. We could probably... Oh.
Whatever normal is. Maybe they're doing metric.
We shouldn't talk.
Last time I have to mess with your hair.
You'll just stare at him when he's talking.
Stay on your hand mic for that wrap at the end of this segment before you go to headset.
Yeah. Yeah.
definition of power reads, the amount of work being done or energy being produced per unit of time. For the longest time, that same definition has described this city. Detroit, a municipality built on power. For a century, this place has produced horsepower. And for nearly a quarter century, horsepower has returned home to power this place, Belle Isle. The captains of the automotive industry, the captain of American motorsports, the principles of power. Even a man with the last name of power. Today, they race here, in the shadows of America's power plant, led by Alexander Rossi, an American kid who has suddenly joined racing's most powerful roster. Saturday brought the first power play, a winner already crowned during a weekend so powerful it boasts not just one race, but two. Welcome to the duel in Detroit.
While the picture looks much the same as it did on this very network 24 hours ago, this is not a repeat. This is a live original program. We're ready for the second of the Duel in Detroit races for the Verizon IndyCar Series in the Motor City, the raceway at Belle Isle Park in downtown Detroit. Yesterday's opener of the Twin Bill was quite action-packed and event-filled. Scott Dixon, second in the IndyCar Championship. On his first pit stop, they couldn't get fuel in the car. He fell all the way back toward the tail end of the field. Then later in the race, a problem that caused him to lose the ability to shift or clutch his car. Dixon finished well back in the pack. James Hinchcliffe qualified well, raced reasonably well. Then in turn 7, he was not happy. Hinch finishing well down in the field. An eventful day for Team Penske. Watch Will Power and Juan Montoya race into turn 3. Power swerving to the inside. Montoya barely avoiding the tire barrier. That was the second of a couple of racing incidents between them. Then Power's day would he fall even more miserable after a pit stop when he was coasting down toward turn number 3, his car eventually coming to rest in the runoff area. These race cars generally work better with 4 tires attached to them than 3. Power's team had a problem on a pit stop. He would finish at the bottom of the field. Sebastian Bourdais used pit strategy to come from deep in the pack to race for the lead in the closing laps. This off his final pit stop. That's Elio Castroneves and Simon Pagenaud. He has to hold off on cold tires off the pit lane. And somehow he found a way to get it done. He expanded his lead from there, held off Connor Daly in the closing laps, and for the second year in a row, Sebastian Bourdais was a winner in Detroit. Now already today, we've had 2 qualification sessions this morning. The first session makes up the inside row of today's grid, the second, the outside. It'll be Simon Pagenaud and Ryan Hunter-Reay on row number 1. Scott Dixon looking to bounce back from his troubles of yesterday, qualifying for row number 2. Juan Pablo Montoya will start right behind Will Power in rows 4 and 5. Could be an interesting first lap there. And Bourdais will come from row number 6 in his attempt to sweep the weekend. Alexander Rossi, the Indianapolis 500 winner, is back in row number 9. And rounding out the starting grid will be Connor Daly and Marco Andretti, both of whom, along with Will Power, suffered penalties after qualifying this morning. And hello from Belle Isle, Alan Bestwick with the 1998 Indy 500 winner Eddie Cheever and 2-time Indy runner-up Scott Goodyear. So yesterday was kind of an event-filled day. What are we going to see today?
I think yesterday was mostly about strategy because people wanted to get off their red tires. But now they decided, at least the majority, to start with their blacks. So there'll be less strategy and hopefully just flat-out racing in this very difficult circuit to see who wins. Less strategy, more speed.
Less strategy, more speed. I like that. Now, it's not often, in fact, it's the only time all year that IndyCar Series drivers and teams run back-to-back races on consecutive days. How difficult will it be?
Well, with all the confrontation and drivers losing patience yesterday, I think we're going to see the same thing again today. Drivers are really, really physical around this racetrack with each other in their cars. And they're driving the cars with no power steering, no power brakes. It's a very bumpy street circuit, not like the smooth circuit that we just came off of last week at Indianapolis. But watch these guys. Wheel to wheel, banging each other, going through the turns, underneath their teammates right there like we saw. So right now, I think we're going to see a lot of that today because this track is so physical. The drivers will be worn out today, let alone they had that problem yesterday.
Look how difficult this corner is. Look, all these bumps in the straight. That's in the straight. Can you imagine what it must be like to be trying to slow a car down, all those bumps?
Let's hear from some of the featured stories at the start of this race. First, we go to pit road and Dr. Jerry Punch.
Well, and yesterday, pole sitter Simon Pagenaud began the race on the red, softer compound tires that no one thought would last more than 10 or 12 laps. But Simon, not only did you run a full 23-lap stint, you were fast for much of that time. You start on reds today again from the pole. What's the game plan early on?
The game plan is the same. It's just yesterday we're in the wrong place at the wrong time. Strategy played a big role in the race yesterday. But you know, this is the beauty of IndyCar racing. It might be frustrating for us when we have the best car and we're doing a good job. But in the meantime, it makes the show very interesting for the fans. Anybody can win in the Verizon IndyCar series, and I think that's what makes it very different to any other racing series in the world. So. Today, we're just going to try to extract the best out of the situation. Obviously, we're starting first. If we can stay there, it'd be fantastic. And, at this point, we can do it. It's just a matter of being there at the right time.
Yesterday and years past, we've seen where fuel mileage has helped determine the winner. You ran out of fuel in the final lap yesterday. How difficult is it as a driver to save fuel and yet stay competitive here?
We finished. We made it to the end. We just had to really dial down the engine to make it all the way. But it is a strategy, and it's very difficult for the guys on timing stand to see in the future. They don't have a crystal ball that tell them what to do, but it was a very difficult situation for them. I believe that they did everything they could to put us in the right situation. But again, the yellow came at the wrong time for us, and then you end up being on the back of your foot. So it is what it is. That's racing, and some days it's your day, some days it's not.
Simon Pagenaud hoping for a fast car and a little bit of luck today. Let's go to Jan Beekes.
And Doc, the fastest man in qualifying this morning was Will Power, and by a handy margin, but he's not starting on the pole. That's because he was deemed to have impeded the progress of Marco Andretti on course. Now, you told me you just left the pits, so do you feel you did get in his way?
I left the pits and it was starting to rain, so I had a lot of trouble getting out of his way. He'd already done a lap, he had warm tires, so I was just trying not to put it in the wall because the tires have a wax on them when you first leave the pits, and it makes it very slippery. So, yes, I got a penalty, and it was unfortunate. We were the quickest car, but that's racing.
Well, now you start 8th, knowing that you may have the fastest car. So how do you play this?
Yeah, it's tough. Like we thought the Reds would go off badly, but they did not yesterday. So it leaves it open to do a two-stop strategy. Bit of rain falling here and there. I mean, it's hard to pick, but we're starting on new Reds, and we're just going to do what we think.
All right, he's going to try to go to the front, and of course, Rick, he's hoping it doesn't end down an escape road like it did yesterday.
Well, yesterday, Connor Daly was one happy young man, finishing second in the first race here as a result of strategy. And I have to say, when you were starting yesterday, did you possibly think there was a chance you'd be on the podium?
Well, you never know, I guess. We had our Jonathan Bird special firing on all cylinders yesterday. Honda gave us a great package there to run through the field, and
yeah, but it took a great strategy move.
Well, yes, of course. Our master wizard on the stand, Dale Coyne, did everything he could, and all the guys up there, Dan Hobbs, Michael Armbruster, Michael Cannon. Those guys, I tell you what, are awesome. So it was a great result yesterday.
All right, that was yesterday. Today, you were starting on the last row. What happened?
Oh, man. Yeah, we had our best qualifying of the season, of course, at the wrong time. There was no strategy in that. We were purely fast this morning. We were P3 in our group, which meant we would have started P5. And honestly, very unfair penalty, I think. I didn't impede anyone's qualifying. Didn't affect anyone's qualifying at all. And for some reason, that ruined the entire session for us. So very questionable in my opinion, very unhappy about it. But it is what it is. So again, I have to race my way from the back.
So once again, Connor Daly may need strategy to end up on that podium.
The penalty to Daly for bringing out a sectional caution during qualifying. That's why he starts at the back. The command to start engines for the second Duel in Detroit race is next.
The Duel in Detroit, brought to you by Firestone. Whatever you drive a Firestone.
the boys wanted to remind you that exactly 7 days ago right now you were drinking a glass of milk on the side of your race car. So let's go get another one.
Indianapolis 500 winner Alexander Rossi. I don't know that they give out milk for winning here in Detroit, but I'll bet there's a nice bottle of champagne waiting at the end of this.
And it will taste just as good as that milk did. But
absolutely. So getting ready to go, unlike the 2.5 mile, 4-turned oval at Indianapolis, on a 14-turn road course that's just a little less than 2.5 miles, 70 laps the distance, and that fuel range, that can be a big thing in determining the outcome of the winner. Especially we saw some of the strategies yesterday that played out in determining who got the victor. Now, difficult corners, 2 places to pass here that are the best.
Turn 3 and turn 7, watch for the drivers to really try and get a draft going down the stretch, and we're looking at turn 7 right there. But the one thing about this racetrack, it is very bumpy, especially offline. See how the skid marks? That's what we'll be watching for today.
And they're the first straightaway that they'll go down after the quick right-left jog off of the start. The weather for now, the track is dry, skies are clear. We go trackside for the command to start engines.
Race fans, it's time for those most famous words in motorsports. Please welcome the chairman and CEO of General Motors, Mary Barra, to give the command.
Drivers, start your engines.
Two participating manufacturers in the Verizon IndyCar Series, Honda and Chevrolet. Of course, this race occurring in the shadows of Chevrolet's headquarters building, very prominently visible from this racetrack. You think they want to win today? There are more than a few high-ranking GM executives here, hoping they celebrate in victory lane.
this is, after all,
After some pretty heavy rain overnight and showers throughout the morning this morning, conditions are perfect. 73 degrees and sunny for the start of the second dual in Detroit race for the Verizon IndyCar Series. You can ride today with Marco Andretti, who's carrying our Mutual of Omaha on board, or James Hinchcliffe with the Lucas Oil on board. Graham Rahal has a new sponsor this week, and his United Rentals camera is on board. NTT Data rides with Tony Kanaan, of course. Elio Castroneves has a Verizon on board. Both front row starters carrying a camera. Ryan Hunter-Reay with the AutoNation on board. And Simon Pagenaud on the pole for a second straight day with a Verizon on board. Enter at racewithhonda.com for a chance to start a Verizon IndyCar Series race in the Honda two-seat IndyCar, driven by Mario Andretti. Mario's got the day off today. Gilles de Ferran is subbing in, and Nigel Sylvester is getting the ride of a lifetime. Let's get some final stories from pit road before the green flag. We go to Jan.
And what a difference a day makes for Ryan Hunter-Reay. Yesterday, he didn't qualify well, started in 15th. He liked his car and he raced to 7th, but today he has a great opportunity. Starting on the outside of the front row, he knows it's a golden opportunity to show their stuff. And as mentioned, he knows full well this race takes place in the backyard of Chevrolet. He'd love to be a spoiler and bring home a victory for Honda. Doc?
Well, the bad news yesterday for four-time IndyCar champion Scott Dixon was that they had a fuel leak inside the bodywork during a pit stop that shorted out the wiring that controls the shifting mechanism, thus locking the car in first gear, ending their day. But here's the good news. Earlier in the race, on lap 19 of a stint, they had the fastest lap of the race on black tires with no push-to-pass assist used. So they know they've got a fast car today and aren't afraid to use it. Here's Rick DeBeer.
Well, Graham Rahal, for him at this race the last 2 years, it's been feast or famine. In each of the weekends, he's had a podium finish, and then he's finished on the back of the pack as a result of problems. Now, yesterday he was able to do a strategy run that was able to get him in here and finish 4th. But he's hoping that's just an appetizer, and that today he could do even better.
All right, Rick, thanks. Quick note that the broadcast available in Spanish for you by activating the SAP button on your television, presented by ESPN Deportes. We may see pit stops as soon as the 3rd lap of the race. Strategy so critical. For now, they're lined up 2 by 2, coming to the start of the 2nd Duel in Detroit race. Enjoy. That was Graham Rahal hitting pit road. Contact on the front stretch. Hinchcliffe's into the wall and more.
And Sato.
Max Chilton also got a piece of it, and we're full course yellow in the first corner.
And Dixon was almost into the wall, turning into turn 1.
What a miserable weekend for Hinch. We showed you just a little bit ago the mechanical problem that sent him into the barrier at the end of the straightaway in turn 7. Max Chilton also had a mechanical failure yesterday that sent him into the wall out of the backside of the course.
Yeah, there you go.
And Takuma Sato all torn up. Graham Rahal just leaving pit road. We caught something on his radio on the pace laps that he might not have been feeling very good. What was it, Rick, about the brake system on his car?
Well, that's exactly right. Said he had a very soft brake pedal. So soft, in fact, such a big problem, they decided to bring him in. However, what they've done is did a little bit of work and sent him back out. And now they're hoping that with this long yellow, maybe they can bring him in a few times, fix the problem, and not lose a lap.
There's his dad, Bobby, looking on from, I believe he's down by turn 3, watching this race. So what happened? First corner, first lap.
Always so dangerous because everybody's always going for the same spot. Now let's watch up here. Looks like Charlie Kimball is in the middle of the track, and he's going to start to get himself over to his left to make room to get into the corner, which is a right-hander for him, and he starts to move all the traffic over, and the guy that pays for that the most is the number 5 car of James Hinchcliffe, who ends up getting into the wall, and the rest of the guys start sliding along.
Hinchcliffe had nowhere to go.
And you can hear the impact, and as a driver, I can tell you that you hate that.
Marco Andretti got a piece of it too.
He almost got through that.
Yeah, And, you know, for Sato, he should have, you know, it's a hard thing to do because watch Sato. He ends up in the middle of the track, and you're trying to get off the middle of the track, hoping that nobody's going to hit you. But if he had his foot on the brakes and stopped, then Marco would have got through there. So another day that's unlucky for Marco Andretti. You see that James took his hands off the steering wheel, so he ends up getting his hands caught in the steering wheel. Doc, you have more?
We've caught up with James Hinchcliffe. James, what happened?
I mean, Carlos was an idiot. He was pushing me wide through 12 and 13 coming to the start. We get to the start-finish line, and he just drives me straight into the wall. It was such an unnecessary BS accident to happen. And you know what? He got a nice big check in Indy. We're sending him the crash damage bill for that because that is an absolute crime. I'm so mad. It was so unnecessary. There's plenty of room on the racetrack. It's lap 1. It was a joke. We will definitely be talking after this.
What do you do now with the car? Can you get it repaired and get back out?
We're going to try. I mean, you know, as long as he's still out there, there's probably going to be some more accidents, so we'll try and go and get the car back out there and pick up whatever points we can. But I'm just gutted. You know, this weekend started with a ton of potential. The car was fast. The aero guys had, you know, a really quick car off the truck. And, you know, yesterday we have a mechanical failure, takes us out of a top 5, and today we have morons just driving people off the road.
Has there been bad blood between you and Munoz in the past? Anything in the past that would have brought this up?
No, we were joking around before the start of the race. You know, it's he's not a bad kid. It's just it was so stupid. I mean, even like I said, coming through 12 and 13, coming to the green, he was giving me absolutely no room. I don't know if there was someone on the inside of him. I haven't seen it yet. It doesn't really matter. It is what it is. It's over. He's in. We're out in a big way, and it's just really disappointing.
James Hinchcliffe very upset, Alan.
And the incident is under review by the 3-steward panel that looks at such things.
You know, and I think what James doesn't understand right now, and he did mention that he thought maybe somebody might be on the inside of Carlos, and that's exactly what he'll find when he watches the replay.
You will see in our ABC side-by-side coverage that some will drift onto pit road under this yellow flag. First of the strategy moves that we'll see throughout the race. First turn carnage here in the second of the duel in Detroit races. As us under caution before we got a full lap of green. In fact, before we got a full quarter of green. And about 4 cars damaged in that knockaround. Hinchcliffe, Sato, Max Chilton, and more.
You know, watch here, guys. The 83 of Charlie Kimball is driving along, and he's going towards turn 1, but what he doesn't know is that obviously the 26 of Carlos Munoz is right behind him. So as we roll this, You see Charlie Kimball start to go towards the inside a little bit, thinks he's going to get around Sato a little bit. And at that time, the 26 car of Carlos Munoz is starting to fill in the gap. And as soon as the gap is filled, the 83 Charlie Kimball decides I need to make a nice swing into turn 1, pushes over the 26 of Carlos Munoz, which then takes out James Hinchcliffe. Now, when James goes back and watches this, he will then find out that it really wasn't Carlos's fault. It was a chain reaction. But all he knows, Eddie, is the disappointment that he had from Carlos from what went on before the green flag. And we all play the mind games.
It's very difficult when you're going into a corner like that and you don't know if there's 3 abreast. All Charlie tried to do was get a better run at the corner. Had he kept his line, all that would have been avoided. Or the biggest problem they would have had would have been rubbing wheels. But once Hinchcliffe was into the wall, it was done.
So you don't see Munoz jumping in there in between them when Kimball faded a little bit to the inside as being an issue at all.
No, you're going for a space in the racetrack, so he did the right thing. And Kimball realized he wasn't going to make ground on the car in front and wanted to go towards the left, as we would always do. And he set up for a right-hander, and lo and behold, that gave the chain reaction. So
but those are immediate decisions that you have to make. So obviously, he didn't have all the information available, and he made the wrong one.
Graham Rahal was also back on and off pit road as they continue the repairs on his car. So we're getting ready to go back to green here. Single file this time.
It would be nice to know if they found the issue with his brakes.
We got our best guy on it, and I'll bet he can tell us. How about it, Rick?
Well, what they did was they brought him in and bled the brakes, and it was a major event to get that done. They're working under pressure, trying to get it done, bleed the brakes before it gets out in that next lap. Fortunately, they were able to get him out and get him back on the lead lap, so he has not lost a lap here in this race.
Coming to the green. Yesterday's winner Bourdais, who made the move going off into turn 1. Now they come to turn 3.
Montoya was sticking his nose in there.
Say that this is a fun track. You and I mentioned that the other day when we were chatting with each other. And on the inside
is Munoz.
Make a nice clean move. Very difficult. Remember, tires are just getting up to pressure and temperature. It's a fun track to drive because it's very challenging, but the pounding that we take inside the car, sitting in the seat and the steering wheel, it almost takes the fun away from it sometimes and the enjoyment.
And the thing about this place is it's bumpy everywhere. There isn't one place that's smooth, so I think that you just have to get used to it. We're trying to put over 550 horsepower down on a track like this. It's very difficult. It just wears you out.
Hawksworth dives to pit road.
In about half a lap, all of the tire temperatures will be up. We'll see who has what.
We talk about a bumpy circuit, and this circuit has so many different types of pavement and concrete areas. Now we see some more movements going on. 14 and Takuma Sato.
He was one of the cars involved in the accident that managed to get the parts changed in time. I would say that Graham Rahal solved his brake issue because he's right up there with him. Look at his hands. Look how many times he has to correct over these bumps. This is where there were some mechanical failures yesterday. Scott Strader, if you remember.
With Max Chilton having a steering issue problem, I believe, and went into the wall. That's when you become a passenger, and that's no fun. Now in the most difficult area there, and you can see the car in front putting power down. That's 19 of Gabby Chavez. Did a nice job there. So what Graham's doing, we're trying to get on the throttle without spinning the tires, not take the tires off the back of the car because he doesn't know when he's going to go to the pit lane.
He's been on the pit lane a couple of times already, Rick.
Well, I just want to mention the fact that Graham Rahal talks about how brutally the bumps are on this track. They totally take it out of him. Yesterday, his hands, he said at one point he had to take them off the wheel because it was so brutal. And during yesterday's session, during the morning session, his seatbelt actually came undone because he said the jostling was so great it worked loose one of the springs. That's how great the bumps are here.
I think he's going to try for past it. Yes, he is, right down the middle.
By Gabby Chavez.
And you saw Gabby get a little bit loose in turns 1 and 2. Kills your exit speed to go down the stretch. Getting up to about 165, 168 miles an hour into turn 3. So he didn't have that speed coming out of turns 1 and 2 because of the slip.
Pagano, Hunter Ray, Kanan, Castro Neves, and Mikhail Aloshin is up in 5th. Had a good qualifying run earlier. The Moscow driver had his hands full in practice on Friday. He missed turn 7 at the end of that backstretch 5 different times. But he found the limit. He was fast yesterday. He and Kanan had a little thing late in the race that cut down a tire on the 7 car and caused a bad finish. He's fast again at the beginning of this one, Doc. Sorry, Jan?
That's all right. And the situation for Mikhail, you talked about him missing turn number 7. They found there was a brake-related issue that was technical. So it wasn't just that he was trying to find the sweet spot. There was actually something physically wrong with the braking system. So now that really raises a driver's confidence level. In fact, he came on the radio and said, I can't stop for turn 7. They said, don't worry, fix the brakes, you'll be good. Now he's showing what he can do.
Oh, we saw in qualifying in Indianapolis, this is not a driver that is lacking any confidence at all. He sticks the nose of his car anywhere he thinks he can get through.
Remember the Aloshin story? Came to the United States because he only had sponsorship and funding to get an also-ran attempt at Formula One. Did very well in his rookie year, then got badly injured at the end of that season 2 years ago in a crash out at California Speedway in Fontana. Had to not race in the United States last year because of some of the politics between his country and ours. His sponsorship was tied up in some of that. He's back this year. He's fast, he's aggressive. Sometimes a little too aggressive in the opinions of some of his competitors, but he said he's got a real bond with the Schmidt-Peterson team now because while he was in the hospital all alone in the United States, they never left him alone.
I think he's great to watch. I love watching Aloshin on the track.
Simon Pagano has been great on the track, trying to get a 4th win this season. We'll see if he can do it today in Detroit. We're back to Motor City after this from your ABC station. The Motor City, where the Verizon IndyCar Series races in the duel in Detroit. Yesterday's race was somewhat calm where contact incidents were concerned. Sometimes when you get these races, when day 1 is calm, day 2 gets to be a little frantic and action-packed? We'll see if that's how this turns out. Simon Pagenaud is the race leader. You ride on board with him with a reminder to download IndyCar Mobile to access exclusive live in-car cameras, hear driver and pit crew shadow and more, only on Verizon. Sato's in.
It's time to play the strategy game. They have brought Sato in. They're going to go ahead and change off the alternate, the red tires, onto those black compound tires. The goal is not to make any changes. Now we'll see where the strategy starts to play out. We saw yesterday early stops change the course of the race.
By way of reminder, there are 2 different tire compounds, actually 3 in Verizon IndyCar Series. One's a wet tire, but the 2 that you must run, that red sidewall tire, softer, faster initially, drops off more quickly. The standard tire, the black sidewall, is not as quick off the get-go, but lasts longer. Which one do you have to run each one for at least 2 laps during a race? Which one for which race has been a great subject of debate here this weekend.
But here, as in all circuits, a car that is working well will abuse its tires less. And if you can run the red tires, you have an advantage. But when a car is not good over the bumps and you're spinning your tires, you have to fall back on the blacks. And as we can see with Pagenaud, he's doing exactly what he did yesterday.
Because great sections of this racetrack surface are made of concrete, a lot of folks thought that the red tires, the softer tires, would scrub off more quickly, and you'd want to get off of those as quickly as possible. But yesterday, Pagenaud made those last for a long, long time. And that's got some people rethinking things, perhaps, for today's race. Jan?
Yes, you can see the strategy here was more for a nose than it was for tires. Alexander Rossi, another one of those drivers who received a penalty in qualifying. He actually qualified 6th, but he overdrove a yellow. If there's a yellow flag, you have to slow down. That's 17.5 seconds. Not bad for changing the nose, but that'll obviously hurt you. They'll look at the strategy now. He was penalized for overdriving. If you do not slow down 15% through a yellow section, they take away your fastest lap. So now he has to rethink and hoping for a yellow.
That was during qualifying this morning, that penalty for Rossi. Now, Team Penske has had an interesting weekend for sure. They ran 1, 2, 3, 4 for a while yesterday, but Will Power 12 and Juan Montoya 2 had that moment we showed you. Your word, Scott, the confrontational pass.
Confrontation, you know, there seems to be a little bit of tension right now in Team Penske. As we see yesterday's winner, number 11, coming into the pit stop, Sebastian Bourdais, Jan.
And interestingly, this is the exact same timing as his second stop yesterday. He didn't like his first one on lap 3, but he loved this one on lap 13. A little bit slow probably on the outside front. That's for 9.1. Rick?
Came in for another stop, taking off those red tires. The good news is no complaints about the brakes. They didn't try to work on it, just sent them back out.
All right, Rick. About 50 miles an hour going through pit lane seems like such a long time as a driver. So anxious to get out and get going.
And the exit is not easy on this track. Here we go.
Montoya on Power.
He repaid him back exactly what Power had done to him yesterday.
We were just talking about that before we went to pit stops. I mean, there's a lot of tension in the team right now, I believe. And these two guys were at it yesterday. They're at it again today. And Eddie, you know, is a hometown race for Roger Penske. So we see the cars coming right now into the turn. Very bumpy. That's late braking. That's like, here's a surprise for you, Will Power. Remember yesterday?
Yeah, remember me?
Now, 2 things about this. First, they are on different tire compounds. Power is on the red softer tires. Montoya is on the black standard tires. Now that we're further into a stint, maybe that's showing a little bit on Power's car. The other, Montoya made the podium yesterday. In the post-race press conference, he was asked about the confrontation with Power on the racetrack, and Montoya said, Will's desperate for results, so he'll do anything. That's what it is. It's the truth.
When you're in a team, your main job is to make sure you're in front of your teammates. So Power has been the fastest driver up to this year in that team, and Montoya is obviously trying to put his stamp on it.
And you bring something up that's very interesting, because you're always rated against your teammates, aren't you?
Because you have the same equipment. And in a place like Penske, everybody gets the same stuff.
And everybody's expected
to win.
Absolutely.
And unfortunately, there's only one of those every weekend.
So it's Aloshin in 5th, Dixon in 6th, Montoya 7th, Doc.
And John Bonslag just told Juan Pablo Montoya, hey, the guys in front of you, all 6 in front of you are on red tires. They are starting to slow down and wear out. It is your time, Juan. Your blacks are going to be able to catch these guys. We saw him already catch and go by Will Power. And now Montoya, these next 7 laps until his first pit stop, it's time for him to gain some spots.
Alan, you were absolutely right. That difference in speed between Power and Montoya comes down to the tires, because you can see he's put so much distance between himself and Power in a very, what is it, a lap and a half. And here comes Dixon.
Inside of Voloshin, Montoya tries to follow through.
Yeah, he'll be very aggressive. Oh, little blocking maneuver there.
I think that's Russian for, I'm not going to let you go by.
I think there's some guys you can intimidate in this series, but I don't think
Montoya is not one of them. But Voloshin does not have to get out of the way from Montoya. Montoya has to earn it.
Incident between Voloshin and Dixon under review. We'll see if that's another one added to the list here as we continue to watch from Detroit. Hot and heavy here for 7th place between Will Power and Charlie Kimball, 12 and 83. As Power on the softer tires, struggling here later in this first stint. Talked about why the strategy today might be different than what the winning strategy was yesterday. Let's check with Jan on that.
And that's because they have a little bit of data to pull from, and that is, as we see Tony Kanaan coming on to take some service, is that they found yesterday that the red sidewall Firestones lasted longer than they thought. Right now we're on lap 17. That means that Tony Kanaan, as he takes off these red sidewalls, has to make 2 more stops. If you can make it to lap 18, would be touch and go, but I think if you can get to lap 20, it's then a 2-stop race. So a guy like Will Power on the right side of the screen is just out there nursing the car around, hoping that he can get to anywhere between 18 and 20. Then he only has another stop in his future instead of 2, like Tony Kanaan.
And Jan, part of this all is not getting burned by the caution flag and having it fall at the wrong time for your strategy. We saw that yesterday affect a lot of people.
Yes, those who stayed out front. There were 3 of those cars that stayed out, and we called it the danger zone. They got bit by the danger zone. Today, more cars are going to be wary, I should say, of the fact that if a caution comes, I want to be protected. But not as many people have pitted, so we have a wide open kind of 50-50 strategy at the moment.
Weary might be an appropriate word too. Second race in 2 days, and the crews here late last night, early this morning, taking apart, rebuilding these race cars.
Getting back to that yellow flag, I have yet to meet somebody that can tell me when the yellow flag's going to come out.
Yeah, really.
So for right now, I mean, maybe things aren't going to be so bad for Tony Kanaan. He might end up finding a lot of yellows ahead of him, so we might end up with only 1 more stop versus 2. Those are the things you just never know. Watching the speeds right now is very interesting because Will Power slowed down to being about a 119, 120 there for a little while, about 2 seconds slower than all the rest of the people, but now he's back up. He must know he's going to come in shortly, starting to push that car a little harder just to take the best part off the tire. We'll have to watch to see what happens.
And Montoya has caught up to Dixon.
This is for 4th and 5th place. No action taken on the incident that was under review between Aloshin and Dixon, or between Montoya and Aloshin. That has kind of sorted itself out on the racetrack anyway, especially after Aloshin gave Montoya that spot and then pitted.
Don't forget Montoya, as you see going by there, has those black sidewall tires, the standard tires. As you all mentioned, the red tires that Scott Dixon are on, not expected to last quite as long. So what happens as a driver inside the cockpit right now is that you're pushing into the turn, the car starts to slip and slide a little bit, not as much grip mid-turn. You can't get your foot on the gas as early as you want to, so what ends up happening is you're going slower through the turn, but you're pushing as hard as you can, and Dixon's probably driving harder right now than what Montoya is. Right?
But you got to add one thing. Dixon has to look in his mirrors because he has Montoya behind him. Doc?
And you're exactly right, guys. Dixon is driving very, very hard up on top of the wheel here, trying to hang on as the red, softer compound tires of Dixon are wearing. Montoya would like to get by him. Both of these cars are going to pit in less than 3 laps. Remember, Dixon will be going to sticker blacks, and Montoya will go to sticker reds on this next pit stop, so he will be lightning fast. Both are going to pit now in about 2 to 3 laps.
All right, Doc, thanks. Quick reminder, the next Verizon IndyCar Series race is next Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern on NBCSN, the Firestone 600 from Texas Motor Speedway. Our last IndyCar race of the year here on ABC. Our colleagues and friends at NBCSN will take it the rest of the way. We wish them a bon voyage. And we say a great big thank you to our crew here who have worked so hard to make this month of May and our season opener and this weekend happen. They're here before the sun comes up and well after the sun goes down, and we appreciate their efforts so incredibly much.
One thing to notice today is that of the first 9 cars, 8 of them are Chevy powered, and only one with Hunter Ray is a Honda.
So Simon Pagenaud has led every lap so far. Pit stops for the leaders we expect shortly. If they happen, you'll see them in our ABC side-by-side coverage.
I'm not a basketball guy.
I knew I was going to get that look from you. Like, why are you asking me?
I could talk about golf or basketball is just not my thing.
How about we talk about Simon Pagenaud?
I'm so impressed. Look, he's on rails. He's figured something out this year. He's just
smooth,
impeccable.
professor-like.
And I'd almost, oh, what's this from?
Someone has bounced off the barrier there.
It's a piece of front wing, I think.
Came off of Dixon's car, we're hearing. Scott Dixon, and look, as he drags along.
Oh, but
no, Montoya's missing.
Montoya's also missing some parts too, so
yes.
What's that tell you?
Yep.
Somebody tried to pass somebody.
Do we need a wing? Absolutely.
The late move, the surprise move, doesn't quite work. Scott Dixon brakes pretty late, guys. It's not like you're going to be able to go in there and outbrake him. That's down the end of the backstretch heading into turn 7, 165 miles an hour down to about 65 miles an hour.
Yeah, there was just no room there. He wasn't in deep enough. But if you're going to pass Dixon, you're going to have to take a big risk. That just did not pay off.
Dixon and front wing on Montoya, I should say. Contact with those two is now, remember, Montoya went on sticker reds and now the new front wing, and Dixon coming in going on sticker blacks.
And Doc, the contact between them being reviewed by the 3-steward panel. We'll see if they take any action on it or not.
I'm going to say a racing incident because somebody's trying to go for a hole. They both try to give each other room. And what's your vote?
I agree with you. It was just almost on.
So Pagenaud in from the lead. Hunter Ray also in from second. Doc?
Well, they love the fact that Simon Pagenaud is getting excellent fuel mileage. In fact, in spite of the fact he's been pulling away 4 tires, they're going to go with the sticker blacks and take a half a round of front wing out. That will add some rear grip. Pagenaud down and away. Let's go to Young.
And Ryan Hunter-Reay just leaving. He is at the very pit in, and Pagenaud is at pit out. It was a routine stop. They were able to add some front wing for Ryan Hunter-Reay. I believe the reason, this was right at the time that they wanted to pit, but when they saw debris on the racetrack, no one wanted to be caught by a caution. That's why we saw the leaders hit pit road, and now they're setting up for Castro Neves.
Big moment there as Kanaan gets by Hunter-Reay. Castro Neves has taken over the lead, yet to pit. Spencer Piggott, driving the Ed Carpenter racing car, is also yet to pit. Little accordion of the pack after these pit stops. Look at this.
So Hawksworth on the inside, doing a nice job. Getting it around Joseph Newgarden.
I think I saw some pieces flying off a car there.
Ray Hall and Newgarden. And now Sato and Rossi will try and follow through.
This is going to get tricky here.
Castro Neves is in, Jan.
Yes, a battle on the racetrack and a battle on pit road. Wow, 8.1 seconds for Castro Neves. We'll see where he slots out. He pushed really hard on his in-lap, which you need to do when this is a track position race.
Spencer Piggott has also come in. So everyone has been on pit road at least once in the race.
Pagenaud has a 5.4 second advantage on Kanaan and a 7.2 advantage on Castro Neves, who was in 3rd place.
There's Bourdais up to 4th in this cycle of things. Sebastian pitted back at lap 12. Hunter-Reay now back in 5th.
Sebastian is so good, isn't he? He's so quick all the time. It's almost like the stealth because he goes along and all of a sudden at the end of the race it's like he's back again.
I think you had the best turn for him yesterday. He is a closer. If you give him a car that can win, he will win.
On board with Ryan Hunter-Reay and watching our Honda telemetry. Jan?
And you can see that he is now tracking behind Helio Castro Neves. They're pitted right next to each other. And for Ryan Hunter-Reay, I mentioned it was a routine stop for Castro Neves, they were ultra fast. Remember, they won the pit stop competition in Indianapolis again, and it paid off. Just those few tenths of a second on pit road swapped the position between Castro Neves and Ryan Hunter-Reay.
These cars are so close together, the competition's so tight. Those split seconds on pit road are making a big difference in these races.
What we have to remember that these drivers took one heck of a beating yesterday. That was a hard race, and they're back and doing it again.
Hawksworth and Rossi are on pit road while you watch Carlos Munoz, 26, in 6th place, try and overtake his Andretti Autosport teammate Ryan Hunter-Reay.
Disappointment for Carlos Munoz just last week at Indianapolis, finishing 2nd, and as I watched him on the screen, I felt for him because it was the exact same thing a couple of times. But as a young driver for him, he certainly has many opportunities to win the Indy 500 in the future, because remember when he arrived on scene a couple of years ago?
He reminded me a lot of Aloshin. Just very fast hands, an overabundance of bravery, and so much talent. And let's not forget, he won here in the wet. He has won in Detroit.
A year ago. So Munoz running in 6th. Top 5, Pagenaud, Canard, Bourdais, Castroneves, and Hunter-Reay. Pagenaud with a 3.4 second lead over 2nd place. We're back to Detroit after this from your ABC station. An eventful opening portion of today's duel in Detroit race number 2. Turn 1, lap 1 got messy.
Everybody trying to go for the same spot sometimes, and that's what happened when the 83 Charlie Kimball's to start to move the traffic over, ended up putting in.
This was one heck of a battle, that one between Dixon and Montoya. And it carried through into the pits, and you can see the mechanics racing to change all the bits that fell off in the accident.
Stewards reviewed that, said no further action. And those drivers continue on as we come to you on a beautiful day here in Detroit. I know some of our other racing friends suffered from a little wet weather today. Those of you watching our IndyCar action from Detroit, glad to have you with us.
With Pagenaud this year, we really are witnessing excellence.
Yes.
This driver is capable of doing what seems to be impossible for his teammates.
Rick?
Marco Andretti brings the car, and they've been frustrated all weekend. Marco's been particularly frustrated about the braking yesterday at Ring 9. This morning he felt he had a problem with braking during the qualifying. Now they just want to see if they get the best result they possibly can.
It has been a tough weekend for Marco for sure.
Also a tough month in the month of May. Remember, we stood there speaking with Michael, his father, the other day, and he said Marco was working so hard at trying to get good results, but things just keep happening for him. And he says he knows he feels a little bit of pressure of the injury he named, because Michael said, I felt it when I drove it, so now he's got not only his dad, but his grandfather out there that has won races. So Marco, a young man, third generation, certainly a lot of pressure on him to get results.
Look at this bump right here. Look at all the suspension travel. Jan?
Michaela Lotion is pitting out of sequence. We're seeing quite a few people that may have Sebastian Bourdais. We're expecting in a few laps. This will not get you to the end of the race. This will get you hopefully some clean air. That's what these drivers are looking for. Run a stint in clean air, try to close the gap, and hope for yellow later on. Again, strategy move to pull them out of pack of cars.
What is he doing?
That's a little weaving to warm the tires up. I've seen you do that.
In a race?
Nobody around him, why not? See, and I thought there was just something wrong with you when I saw that.
Drivers were talking about how yesterday's race, when you came off the pit road on the standard tires, the black sidewall, they took a couple of laps to get going, and they were really slippery those first couple of laps. So maybe he's trying to help that process.
Wax. The gel coat,
Yeah, they used the word there was wax on it.
Tony Kanaan running second.
They call that a release mold that's on the tires when they take the tires out of the mold themselves. So, you know, it's a lap and a half, 2 laps until things are really perfect.
Here's a guy who was so disappointed at the end of the Indianapolis 500, said he drove a better race last Sunday than he did when he won it, and yet didn't take home the trophy. That was Kanaan's radio.
Going back to Indy. Indy decides who wins.
But he's also at his age now, 41, knows that he's in the twilight of his career, but still driving like somebody that's 25. I mean, that's the amazing thing. And probably one of the most fit guys in the paddock, you'd have to agree.
Yeah, absolutely. He is the king of restarts and passing. Always on. I used to think I trained a lot when I trained an hour a day. These guys do like 5 hours a day.
Dipping back into the field here to 14th and 15th, and 2 young American drivers. One, Connor Daly, who got a podium finish yesterday and was in the fight for the win, 18. And another, Spencer Pigot, who got a crack at 3 races this season by winning a scholarship on the ladder that feeds the IndyCar series. And now this week has gotten an opportunity to run the rest of the street and road course races for Ed Carpenter. Ed runs only the oval course races in this 20 car. They had not been planning to field the car in the road and street course races, but had put together a deal with Spencer, and here he is.
You know, when I spoke to him, he said, boy, I've got a lot to learn. He says, I've sort of been thrown in the deep end. As we see right now, a bit of a battle going on for the lead, but for Spencer Pigot, he's so happy to have a continuous ride, because in this series right now, all the teams are looking for experienced drivers because there's no testing available. So all the teams are looking for somebody that can come in, be at speed, and not put a car at risk. So hats off to Carpenter for bringing in a young American.
Absolutely. Look at all the pressure that Tony is putting on Pagenaud.
He's reeled in from a long way back.
And Tony is one of those drivers that once you put him in range, he's very hard to hold off.
And Bourdais is right there too. So is Pagenaud slowing down, trying to stretch some fuel?
Yeah, I bet you.
He better be a little bit careful, because he's going to be stretching the fuel from 3rd place. Look at Tony close the gap under braking. What a great view this is.
A little bit of 2 different driving styles here. Watch, like you mentioned, how deep Tony goes into the turn. I remember speaking to Tony earlier on about when he first joined the Ganassi team. You could really see the difference of how he drove and the 9 car Scott Dixon drove. We watched the 11 car come into pit lane, huh?
Yes, and you saw him close that gap because we know that the in laps are so important. They changed the front tire pressures. They decided to not do it. Rick?
Carlos Munoz brings the car in, especially a long stop. They had a front wheel, left rear, so they can back out. They still plan to make one more stop. Doc?
And here's Juan Pablo Montoya back in 4 tires. They ran the sticker reds. They weren't very fast, didn't like them. Came back and put the blacks on. Now he is will still have to make one more pit stop to make it the distance.
Yeah, Montoya was only out for 10 laps since his last pit stop when he came in for the front wing change after he and Dixon collided there in turn 7.
He's got a lot of catching up to do now.
He's 42 seconds behind the leader, back in 15th place.
And Kanaan is in striking distance of Pagenaud.
Don't forget, Tony came in a little bit earlier in the pit lane, so by my calculations, we'll probably see him on pit lane somewhere around lap 40, 41. We'll save the fuel maybe a little bit longer. Simon Pagenaud looking like he might get to a lap 47, 48.
Coming up to the halfway mark of this second duel in Detroit race for the Verizon IndyCar Series. Tony Kanaan chasing Simon Pagenaud for the race lead. You saw it all unfold in our side-by-side coverage. Juan Pablo Montoya has crashed at Detroit today.
Coming down that long straight, making that left-hander after coming off of turn 7. The back end steps around from him and right into the outside wall, Eddie, and now the right rear toe is actually bent, and you can see the right rear wheel askew, so that's what drives him into the wall here on the inside.
I hate to say the obvious, but we've had 2 races and 2 crashes from Montoya. 3 races and 2 crashes from Montoya. He tried really hard to catch it, but there was no way he was going to catch that.
That was an outlap off his pit stop. So we talked about how slippery those tires were when you bolt them on new.
You got to make up that time, Alan. You can't sit around and wait for your tires to heat up. That's where Bourdais, I think, was really exceptional yesterday when he took the lead coming out the pits. He managed to hold off everybody.
Kanaan will pit under the caution. Pagenaud will stay out. It looks like Kanaan's going to be a very lonely man on the pit lane here. Doc?
Yeah, this will be a scheduled pit stop for Tony Kanaan, the 2007 winner. Scott Dixon was going to come in. He got a problem with the car not turning. They told him to stay out, so Kanaan, the only guy down Lariat. He will get 4 sticker black tires. Try to get Kanaan will need 1 more stop to make it to the end. John.
Alexander Rossi was a little bit out of sequence where Brian Herta was trying to get him as a clean air. They're going to go ahead and take the opportunity to pit at 11.6. That's not really the issue. The issue is if you're Tony Kanaan or you are Alexander Rossi, you just went to the back of the group. So what you hope for now is that fuel strategy plays your way. Otherwise, you're just giving up all your track position.
So cleanup continues under the second caution of this race after one. Pablo Montoya crashed, and Tony Kanaan pitted from second place. Still under caution here at Detroit and beginning to ponder strategy, what the right move, what the wrong move might be, because it's going to be so critical in deciding the outcome of this race. Extended caution while they still get Montoya's car and the debris that had scattered cleared away from the racetrack. One of the top two pitted, Kanaan. He went from second back to 17th. The other, the leader Pagenaud, did not. Jan, what do you make of all this?
Well, I heard your discussion during the break is, could anyone make it all the way to the end? And I think I'm very confident in saying no. That's because there are 34 laps to go from those who just pitted. And the most you can go is 26 if you're saving fuel. So therefore, that's going to leave you 8, if the math is correct, short. In order to get 8 more laps, you need 16 laps of yellow. Basic rule, 2 laps of yellow buys you 1 of green. So I suppose it's possible there could be 16 laps of yellow. That sounds like a very high number to me. Bank on all these cars stopping one more time, and when they do, Sebastian Bourdais, yesterday's winner, is the one who has more of a margin right now of the lead group, so he could be a player. Doc? Alan?
All right, Jan, thanks. We'll get Doc's report in just a minute while the extended caution continues to get the opportunity to get another break in. And we'll come back after this from your ABC station. Lights out on the pace car. We're a half a lap from going green with what'll be 31 laps to go in the second Doolin Detroit race, the raceway at Belle Isle Park for the Horizon IndyCar Series. Simon Pagenaud, the leader. Elio Castroneves second. Ryan Hunter-Reay third. Will Power fourth. Joseph Newgarden fifth. Who might play some strategy as the race restarts? Will we see some people duck onto pit road right away or within a lap or so to get some clear racetrack and a splash of fuel?
One thing we do know, Alan, that everybody's going to have to come in for fuel.
Castroneves on Pagenaud. Couldn't hook it up. Charlie Kimball inside of Spencer Pigot.
I think it was very smart to let him go through because they were going to collide.
There's Graham Rahal now in the 15.
As we always say, such a great time to pass because the cars are so close together. Take advantage of it, but don't overdrive the car. Knock your wing off because you'll have no grip, no downforce, and into the pit you'll have to go. It's a great dicing going on here, especially under braking.
These two Penske drivers that you see leading have been the two fastest Penske drivers throughout the season. Castroneves has been very unlucky, and Simon Pagenaud is almost like King Midas. Everything he's touched, he's won on the street courses.
Castroneves again as Pagenaud takes that defensive line to the inside.
He's trying to pass him on the exit, not on the entry. And he's done it. That was a masterful pass.
Well, it started back in turns 1 and 2. What's interesting, guys, is the push to pass that these drivers have. The button that's on the steering wheel, they can push to give themselves a little bit more power. Remember, you only get 10 applications. You have to sort of leave some for the end of the race. But those 2 laps those guys did after the restart, both of them were pushing the push to pass. And what they can do is also turn around and do it in retaliation. So you get that information back in the pit box for the teams, and they can say, push to pass, and you can hopefully defend it a little bit.
I think on this track, it really doesn't make an enormous difference like it does in other places, but you were right. But that pass that Castroneves did, that was textbook. Watch this in replay. So that's the exit. Look at that. Yes. There it is.
Oh, it's a big black mark for Simon Pagenaud coming out of the turn. He just tromped the gas pedal, didn't he?
They did that, and they were playing chicken. Okay, let's see who has to lift off. And whenever you have the inside line, you always have an advantage.
It's obvious that Castroneves is putting a little gap here on Pagenaud. So at this point in the race on these tires, as Connor Daly and Charlie Kimball square off into the corner. 18 and 83. Kimball holds the spot.
Kimball's been very racy today.
That's from back in 9th and 10th.
Look at this traffic jam. You were talking about clean air, Scott. There's not very much clean air in that group.
That's what the drivers are saying, that about 2 or 3 car lengths back, you start to feel that disturbance, and they're saying the most difficult portion is back in that section coming through 3, 4, and 5 to keep close enough to people to get that run out of 6 to go down that back stretch to have a shot at passing somebody under braking in the 7. Just listen to them use the throttle here.
So Will Power slide back earlier in the race when he was on the softer tires for a longer stint. He's recovered nicely, running 4th here, trying to pressure Ryan Hunter-Reay for 3rd.
And Hunter-Reay in his Honda is putting just enough pressure on Pagenaud to let him remember that he's behind him. You have to fill their mirrors. If you're you have to put pressure on the car ahead of you. Right now, the This is a really tight battle.
That doesn't look good, Rick.
No, Spencer Pigot unfortunately broke a toe link on the back of the car. As a result, they brought the car in, they've shut it off, they're working on it, trying to get him back out. Which is too bad because he really had a pretty impressive run here. And now they've got to spend more time in the pits, and we'll call this a training exercise for the rest of the day.
And that toe leak is a suspension piece that's on the rear part of the car that the mechanics can adjust to set up the suspension on for the driver's preference. And if it is bent, the car sort of dog legs down the road a little bit and no fun to drive, especially on a bumpy track like this.
Look at Hunter Ray.
Ryan with a great car last week in the Indianapolis 500. Led 15 times for 52 laps. He led a quarter of the race. Had a car that he could have contended to win. Got taken out in that pit road collision. And when we asked him about it the other day, said it was a, quote, massive letdown. As you look at the Honda telemetry from Hunter Ray's car.
Just watch the speed down here into 3, and then watch him pound on the brakes here. And the second gear, this is where you're pushing your foot on the throttle. You don't want to tromp the throttle because you don't want to spin the tires and take some life off the tires. So as rough as it looks right now, you're trying to be very ginger with the car, both on the steering and on the throttle, also on the brakes.
So Hunter Ray running in 3rd position. It has been 2 years since Helio Castroneves has won a Verizon IndyCar Series race. His last win was here in 2014. He's out in front today, but still a long way to go. 27 laps left. Riding with the leader, Helio Castroneves. Reminder to download IndyCar Mobile for access to exclusive live in-car cameras, driver and pit crew chatter, and more, only from Verizon. Talked about Castroneves being 2 years since he won here. Helio, a 3-time winner here at Detroit. His first victory and his most recent victory. This was it, race 2 years ago.
He's had a great season so far, but he hasn't quite come in victory circle. We saw him jump out of the car yesterday. Look at that. He doesn't look any different. He jumped out of the car yesterday, Alan. He looked like he could go again. Just put more fuel and let's go race the second one.
40 years old and fit as could be. Had a chance to win Indianapolis last week. Of course, had that contact with J.R. Hildebrand. Roger Penske shared with me that J.R. reached out very graciously this week to discuss that and offer his apology. So can Elio climb the fence again today?
I would say the odds right now are in his favor.
It's called taking some space away. Tony Kanaan was not very favorable.
Let's talk about Kanaan here. He's back in this soup of traffic, Doc. What's the game for Barry Wanser and this team?
I just went down to talk to Barry and Chip Ganassi, and they were discussing exactly what your question is. Do you leave him out until like 9 laps to go, which is what their fuel window would be, or do you bring him in the next 3 to 4 laps? He's running so well. When Pagano and some of the other leaders pit, and go ahead and top him off. They were still discussing this a moment ago. Obviously, TK has got a pretty good race car.
But he's in traffic right now, and he's not making up very much ground.
Connor Daly is in the pit lane, Rick.
And he's done a heck of a job. He started in the last row. Now he's up to 9th. Unlike yesterday, he's running the same strategy as the leaders. So it's going to be interesting to see how he can do.
Of course, Daly had a great qualifying time disallowed this morning for causing a caution in his own racetrack when he overshot turn 3 and went off into the runoff when he spun the car around backwards facing traffic. That forces the yellow flag there. And lost that time. Here's Kanaan behind Gabby Chavez and in front of Alexander Rossi. Rossi with a look.
I was going to say
it's on the wrong side of that turn.
Yeah, it is. Next one's a right-hander, but give him credit for doing such a great job. Another guy that had some penalties towards, and this is a brand new circuit for him. And Eddie, as we all talked about, this is not an easy circuit to learn because you almost have to time where the bumps are on the racetrack. So when you jump over the bumps where the car lands, where the front wheels are going in, that's what you have to learn about this circuit. You'll be around here very quickly.
Rick?
Yeah, Joseph Newgard has been running on reds the whole race. The first time he's going to flag, they sent him back out. He was in 5th place on the racetrack, running the same strategy as the leaders.
Jack Hawksworth and Gabby Chavez, Marco Andretti also on the pit lane this lap. Quick reminder that the next Verizon IndyCar Series race is next Saturday night in prime time. From Texas Motor Speedway, the big, fast 1.5 miles. Who will be the fastest of the night? Find out with our friends over on NBCSN next weekend.
All these pit stops are going to be the last pit stops. Everybody can go flat out from here to the end of the race.
Seeing some activity down on the pit lane.
Pagano has caught back up to Castro Neves.
Tires are laid out in about 4 or 5 pits. Here's Pagano in. Hunter Ray is also in. Will Power is in. Jan?
Right, Hunter Ray taking the opportunity to pit. We thought that Castro Neves was going to pit, but they waved off. While this is happening, let's get down to Doc with Pagano. Doc?
Final stop of the day for Simon Pagano, who had been in somewhat of a fuel-saving mode. Now you can go full rich. You got to get it full of fuel, get it full of fuel. He's down and away, just over 8.5 seconds.
And got something big, might alter this whole thing. Jack Hawksworth is stopped on the racetrack. Full course yellow.
Here we go all over again.
Puts a big smile on the Simon Pagano group.
Kanaan got in, Doc.
Yeah, Tony Kanaan got in for 4 sticker black tires, no adjustments, just to top it off with fuel. Obviously, you guys saw he was slipping inside, and these tires will help him attack here in the final laps.
Well, 2 things here. A tough weekend for Hawksworth, who didn't even get to race yesterday when fuel system failed on his car before they got it started on the grid. So got 0 laps yesterday. Then today, more problems for him, and he is in in trouble here out on the backstretch. Second thing is how this caution might mess with the running order. For Kanaan, getting on and off for that splash of fuel might gain him several spots in the pack.
We will find out in about a lap and a half, and it will be a flat-out sprint.
Yeah, if the guys didn't come in, they're going to come in now and end up going further back in the queue. So for Elio, this is not well timed, but you know, a fast car, smart driver.
Yeah, he's going to need more than a fast car and a smart driver for starting all the way back, because track position is so important here. As we've seen, every pass, if the driver that you're trying to pass doesn't work with you, is high risk.
Professor Bekas is running the calculations for us.
Yes, and I can tell you, you should have seen the looks on these crews' faces in the 3 pit for Helio Castroneves. They put the tires out, as did Ryan Hunter-Reay and Simon Pagenaud. At the last second, they gave him a signal to say, stay out, stay out. And the moment they saw this full course caution, they go, ah, we're cooked. But you know what I would expect? I would say for Castroneves, they'll change their strategy. They won't pit now. They'll stay out, like happened yesterday, and hope for something later on. Because if he pits now, he gives everything up. Why not let it go green? He doesn't need fuel yet. And maybe he'll have something that goes his way, but now they're bringing the tires out. So they're going to give up that track position. Castroneves, wow, he's going to have a long day now.
Well, let's see what happens here as they come toward the opening of pit road. He's got, you know, Jan is correct. He's got a little while before he has to stop. He pitted at lap 33. And we had a caution right after that bought him some more laps. And so you could probably extend with this caution the distance he could go a pretty good bit, 28, 29 laps anyway.
That's a strategy that makes perfect sense, because the possibility of having a yellow when you get close at the end of the race, I think, always goes up on a road circuit. But it looks like they're coming in.
We'll see. I'm sure that those discussions continue non-stop on the team's private channel. Tim Cindric calling things for Will Power. Now let me correct one thing.
Coming in.
That was a 25 that he last pitted.
He's in the pits.
And the first thing that Helio said on the radio when he got the call, he says, come on. Roger Penske said, just stay cool. He knows he's going to be giving up the track position. But again, all that work, Castroneves has been looking all day for clear air. He loves his race car. Now he's back in the dirtiest air he's had all day.
Roger Penske calls the strategy during races for Helio Castroneves. See if he can work some magic to help his driver get back to the front of this one. Coming to the restart, Sebastian Bourdais is now the leader.
We're going to go for it, Bob. We're going to try to have you get the best gap you can and flash and go and see where we end up. Otherwise, you're going to be in the pack with everybody else just in the conga line.
That's the the strategy. Here's the restart. 18 laps to go.
Struggling.
He is. Lost one position to Will Power.
Passed him on the outside of turn 3.
See when the car's wiggling like that as it is coming out of the turn, that means on the power, but not getting the grip. The back end's moving all around on him. Watch for him to start have to defend.
So many people want to make a move there, but not quite close enough to do it.
It is the risk-reward ratio. You think you can get it done, so you get in there and you start to stick your nose in or try, then you have to bail out of it.
Yeah, but you can't be hesitant at the end like this. If you make the decision, you just have to go all the way through and hope there's enough room, because there really isn't enough time to then set them up again. And Bourdais is pulling away from the field. This is a replay of what we saw yesterday.
Yeah, and the third car line with Graham Rahal, I think that thing's sliding around. He's dropping the wheels off of that thing.
And the new Indianapolis 500 champion is 4th.
I was watching Alexander Rossi's push the pass. Remember that little extra boost that you can use by pushing the button to steering wheel? He started this segment by having 4 of them. He's now down to 1, so...
Kind of went hard at it on the restart, you're trying to say?
I think so. That debit card's running out, isn't it?
He's out of cash. But let's remember, this driver has raced in Formula 1. This driver trained a lot in Europe on these road circuits. I expect him to do well.
How about it, Jan?
Well, the situation for Rossi is the same as Bourdais. There are 4 cars that will not make it to the end unless a miracle. He is one of them. So he, like Bourdais, is trying to build a gap. Of course, when I say 4 cars, that's Bourdais, Kimball, Rahal, and Rossi will most likely have to come to pit road again. So push, 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 try to build a gap. So if you do that splash and go, you don't lose much track position.
John, would that miracle be a yellow?
Well, you need a lot of yellow. You'd have to have about 10 laps of yellow to where not to make the pit stop. So I say the miracle is to build a big enough gap on those that are going home without a stop and get in and out without losing too many spots.
Yeah, we know that number is about a 20 to 22 second lead over the car behind you by the time you get into the pit lane, have some quick service and leave. Maybe a little less than that, because you might not take on tires, you might just take a little splash of fuel. But this is why we go racing. This is going to be good.
So Will Power's pass on Simon Pagenaud on that restart will be big, because he is the highest running driver who pitted at lap 49. For now, Bourdais leads, 16 laps to go. Doolin Detroit doubleheader. A reminder about Game 2 of the NBA Finals coming up tonight here on ABC. We start at 7:30 Eastern with NBA Countdown, then the Cavs and the Warriors, with Golden State up 1-0. Game 2 tonight here on ABC, also on Watch ESPN and the ESPN app. Raceway at Belle Isle. Horizon IndyCar Series getting down to the sharp end of this race with Sebastian Bourdais leading, Charlie Kimball second, Graham Rahal third, and Alexander Rossi fourth. Will Power is fifth, first of the cars who's pitted at lap 49 or later in line. He's 7.4 seconds behind Bourdais. To put that into some perspective for Bourdais, to go down the pit road, even with barely stopping to get a splash of fuel, is going to take you pretty close to 20 seconds. So if Bourdais stopped with the gap that he's got now, he's going to come out 17th in line, or pretty close to it. That's when they're talking on the radio you heard about push, push, push. You got to try and build that gap as much as you can to minimize the damage to make the pit stop.
You're absolutely right. Two things have to happen. The other cars have to slow down, or there has to be a yellow, or something crazy has to happen on the circuit. And this circuit has a habit of throwing things like that in the mix. But they're not building up enough of a gap. It's now 8.7. They will be pitting pretty soon. We have 13 laps to go.
Just think of the history of Sebastian Bourdais. I mean, a four-time IndyCar champion. Really is probably one of the best road course racers I think that we have here in this series today. To stay it out now, you're talking about yellows. That looks like it's probably a piece of rubber, possibly out of the concrete, or maybe a small piece of bodywork. We'll have to see if they're going to deem that a reason for a yellow caution. But just to get back onto Sebastian, very shortly we leave to go over and run his hometown race in the Le Mans 24-hour.
Don't forget his Formula One career. Toyota.
Probably the toughest cars to drive, would you say? You've driven both.
What is that, Formula One?
Formula One and IndyCar?
No, I think Indy cars are tougher. It's a more difficult schedule. When you race on a super speedway and you race on circuits like this, there's not a series in the world.
So a diverse driver, as we're hearing. Sounds like Jimmy Vasser yelling to him, stay out, stay out.
We're working on election.
So the 7 car, Mikhail Aleshin, just in front of the race leader, and that is not something that is going to allow him to continue to push, 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 and make a gap. Unless he can get by him quickly and cleanly, and Aleshin gives way there.
Yeah, a little wave out of the cockpit of the 11 car. Sebastian just saying thank you for moving over.
That debris in turn 4 was picked up by a safety worker when the track was clear, so that's not an issue anymore. So critical moment coming up here.
They're going to put very, very little fuel in this car, so they might be able to get out quicker than we calculated.
As we're mentioning, he's going on just 9-10 seconds ahead right now of Will Power, as we mentioned, probably one of the first ones that don't have to pit, so he's not going to come back out in front, guys.
Oh, he is standing on the gas, though. He's using every inch of the track.
Here's the pit entry.
We're going to leave the tires on, so come on down. Bring her on down. Open box, nice and easy.
Longer than I thought.
In the middle of everything, I got.
It was very interesting for that. The fueler who's putting the fuel in doesn't know how much he can put in until he gets a little tap on the shoulder from the guy that was behind him with a stick, if you saw that, just saying time to pull the fuel probe out and let's go.
Masato looking on Bourdais, so Bourdais is out in 10th place. Charlie Kimball also pitting. Graham Rahal is the new leader. Then Alexander Rossi. Then you get back to Will Power. Rahal last pitted at lap 34. Rossi at 36. And again, the fuel cars is around 26 laps max, though they've had a couple of laps of caution in there to build that out a little later. And you see in some of the camera shots, Will Power is in the frame with these two as Rahal hits pit road.
So frustrating to have to pit for fuel with 10 laps to go in that front pack.
Does seem like a long time, doesn't it?
So there's your new leader, the man who made a lot of fuel in the last laps last Sunday for a big prize.
He's not going to be able to pull that off here, though.
Clutching and coasting the car and so on at Indianapolis.
Amazing win. That was really an amazing win.
Interesting, although it's just new to IndyCar racing. You mentioned the Formula One experience that some of these guys have, like Alexander Rossi. The guys are very, very impressed with how much technical feedback he can give, and also how he reads the rules. He's very smart about the game. He will head in this time for fuel.
We now have 10 laps to go. This is going to be a sprint between Power, Pagenaud, and Hunter Ray.
3, 2, 1,
And so the lead now in the hands of Will Power. Simon Pagenaud is there in second. There's Ryan Hunter-Reay in third. The pass by Power. Then for fifth place just after the restart with 18 laps to go, turning into such a big moment in this race.
Track position is everything at this track.
Scott Dixon running fifth there in the red car. Connor Daly is sixth. Tony Kanaan back in seventh as this field really mixed up by the different strategy choices made by teams and the timing of the caution flags.
These are the sort of races that I really like, where it just comes down to pure speed between the top drivers. They are just going as fast as they possibly can, and the fastest car will win the race.
Well, we knew Will had a fast car because he posted a terrific time in qualifying this morning. Now, it was disallowed when it was ruled that he interfered with Marco Andretti's qualifying lap, so Will's two fastest laps were disallowed. That said, he still took the green flag eighth on the grid.
But if you take, I'm sorry, Scott, go ahead.
Yep, just thinking about Will Power. Remember, he wasn't able to run at St. Pete's earlier this year. Sort of an up and down season that he had. But it's interesting, when I spoke to him just earlier this month, he said, you know, he's had a lot of things going on. He was wanting to work on his diet. He went to a neighbor of his where he lives over there in North Carolina, Dan Jansen, remember the speed skater, who really helped him set his diet forward. So now he's training a little bit differently. And remember, he had the issue with his inner ear, all those sorts of things. They didn't know if it was a concussion in St. Petersburg. He says, I've just changed my life. And really, Tim Cindric has been a help on that with him. So overall, I think he's really back in a happy spot in a race car, because he went through a bit of a down there, I think, for a little while earlier this season.
I agree with what you said, but the biggest life-changing event he's had is Simon Pagenaud winning three races and coming second and always being quick. Power is not used to, has not been used to having somebody in his team that can press him so much for speed. So by beating Pagenaud today, he's putting himself right back in play for the championship. And he's kind of saying, hey, I'm here too. It's not all about Pagenaud.
Key moment of the fight between these two. Back on that restart with 18 laps to go. Headed down into turn number 3.
You can see Will, the silver car back there, right behind Simon Pagenaud, came over turn 2. The car was sideways, carrying the speed up. Watch this.
Pagenaud takes the inside line, and Power goes right around the outside of him, and they both give each other room.
After what we saw yesterday between the Penske teammates, I'm sure there was a meeting.
Did you see the back come out and almost slap the side of Power's car? That was an exceptional pass on cold tires.
And I want to go back and talk about the ups and downs that Will has had so far this season. Obviously, St. Pete, that was a big deal. Remember the Grand Prix at Indianapolis, the road course race there, when he got racing with Alexander Rossi and spun off the course. How unlike Will Power that was to be forced into a mistake. Then the Indianapolis 500, he got the penalty for the avoidable contact on pit road, the unsafe release, excuse me, on pit road, and that kind of set his race back also. So it has been, after the tough start to the season, a really tough month of May for Will Power, and a win here can be a huge psychological lift and boost for him to launch him into the rest of this season.
And I think absolutely, and the thing that he needed so much, as Tim Cindric was saying to me, he just needs to get out there and do the things that he was doing before. And I also spoke with Rick Mears, who's the driver coach on Team Penske, and I said, you know, is there something going on with Will? And he said, no, drivers go high and low in their career. You understand how that is. Rick went through it, not too often, obviously, but he said, you know, we don't see anything different in Will Power.
6 more laps, 6 to go.
6 to go, getting the information from Tim Cindric. And he said, you know, I don't see him doing anything different. He just needs to get out of this cycle, and then when he gets back on a winning streak, he'll feel great. And that's probably what's going to happen today.
Remember yesterday we showed you Power's race that got set aside when he came off pit road and they had trouble with the right rear tire on the pit stop, and he got down to turn 3 and that wheel came off the car and he wound up sitting in the runoff area watching the rest of the race strapped in there.
There's not going to be much left of that plastic bottle pretty soon.
That is always her thing.
Stressful.
She is, excuse the pun, wheeling him forward. He is a very, very fast driver, and he really needs this win.
You know, and Liz was a PR person for another team in the IndyCar series, and they met many years ago and started dating and got married, and now she just goes with Will on all the promotional events that he does and all the races that he does. A great supporter for him, but for Will, you know, he finds that speed all the time to go so quick in qualifying. You and I have talked about that before, where all the other drivers have said, where does he find that last 2 or 3 tenths? But I think your point, Eddie, that Simon's now arrived in the team. Do you think that was done on purpose by Roger Penske?
No, he would never unbalance a team for a little extra speed, would he? He doesn't do things like that.
I think it's like raising the level of the team.
And that's what's happened today to Power. This is an impeccable drive, and he's beaten his teammate, who was the racer this year that's won the most races. So he's doing exactly what the captain wants him to do: win. Look at those numbers.
Those aren't usual numbers for a driver that a lot of folks have considered for a long time to be the best pure road course racer in this series.
Absolutely. I mean, for many years, he was the one that had pole. It was almost a given. Then all of a sudden, Penske hires Pagenaud. Pagenaud does not have a very good first season. And then his second season, he comes alive. This will launch Power to a really good rest of the season.
He started driving. He was living with his family back in Toronto, Australia. Started driving a Datsun 1200, driving a sedan car, and then went into his dad's Formula 4 team. And then his dad saw his talent, so they tried to get him to different teams inside Australia. Then Will knew he had to go and visit Europe, much like you did when you went to Formula 1. So he went off to Europe, didn't know if he had a ride, but got support of a lot of people over there. They saw his talent, but could never find the top ride. So came back here to America and had the opportunity to work his way up, and now he's on top of American motor racing.
He's 1.8 seconds ahead of Simon Pagenaud, coming to 3 laps to go. Pagenaud started on pole again, looking for his 4th win of the season. Yesterday, circumstances went awry, and Indianapolis had a great car, ended up with an engine problem late in the race that took him out with a chance to win. Yet he barely lost any of his championship lead with that. And he will come away from this one again, while not getting the win, with a very solid day where the championship is concerned.
And another second place.
Yeah, Indy kind of killed his average a little bit.
Yes.
Yesterday didn't help either.
You cannot have a bad month of May and hope for a positive end of the championship. You have to do well at Indy. So many points are available there.
Ryan Hunter-Reay started 2nd, in position to finish 3rd.
He is the highest Honda on the track right now.
Of course, with the introduction introduction of the aero kits last year. No secret that the Honda team struggled for much of the season. Figured it out later in the year. Hunter Ray won later in the season. They seem to be on a little bit better curve this year. While they've struggled on the road and street courses to start this season compared to the strength of Chevrolet and the Penske Chevrolets, they seem to be figuring out that balance curve a little more quickly, which bodes well for the Honda teams as this summer stretch goes on.
Hunter Ray is such a professional. If he gets in a hole, he finds a way to crawl out of it. He did that at Indy, and he's done it here. He is definitely a race winner.
Solid day for Joseph Newgarden, who runs fourth, and Scott Dixon with a much-needed comeback after difficulties yesterday that saw him finish well down, running in fifth. Reminder, next weekend's race, Saturday night, Texas Motor Speedway, the Firestone 600, 8 p.m. Eastern, over on NBCSN. So 2 laps to go here for Will Power. Not an easy 2 laps, even though he's got that 2.5-second lead on Pagenaud. As difficult as this track is, the second end of the doubleheader, fighting everything.
He's feeling pretty good just about now. All he's doing is hitting his markers, as you always say, Scott. He's heading for all of his apexes. He's not thinking about anything other than finishing the lap that he is on.
He'll leave himself just a little bit more room on the entrance and on the exit by the walls. Been watching the second and third run right now as we're watching Will Power still leading. Ryan Hunter-Reay had a few more push to passes left than Simon Pagenaud did, so expecting to see him maybe get a little closer and take a run here at the end. But Simon seems to be able to keep up the speed.
If you're driving for Penske and you don't win the Indy 500, I think the next best race you can win is Detroit.
White flag, last lap. You mentioned Roger Penske, his organization, the promoters of this event that raises so much money for the Belle Isle Conservancy to try and rebuild and restore this wonderful island that so many citizens enjoy throughout the year. Roger's corporate business headquartered here in Detroit. This is hometown, and of course the hometown of Chevrolet. And they want to win here very, very badly. The next best thing to a win at Indy for them.
Penske Automotive Group, the second largest automobile group here in North America.
Pagenaud closing in a little bit here.
Tim Cindric say overtake, overtake. Will Powers now just got one left. Simon just used his last one.
I don't think he's close enough.
That was the last chance right there to make any kind of a desperate move. So checkered flag, his 26th career win. And his first win since the first race of May 2015. Will Power wins it in Detroit.
Good job, man. Good job. Nice recovery from yesterday, boys. Good job, boys. It's been a long time. Great job. Great job.
The road course race at Indianapolis a year ago, Will Power's last win. This one ties him with Roger Ward for 14th on the all-time win list. Victory Lane and post-race coverage from Detroit after this from your ABC station.
You remember how to celebrate these things?
nothing feels better than winning. Yep. Will Power's wife Liz and the Penske team beginning the celebration after a hard-earned win today here at the Raceway in Belle Isle. Power beating Simon Pagenaud, Ryan Hunter-Reay, Joseph Newgarden, and Scott Dixon for his first victory of this season.
What do you think, bud? Nice job today, my friend. Hey, you got water? Hang tight with the cutie all over. That's all right. That's all right. That's all right. Same time. Great to be here in Detroit. Love racing this track. All right, they're ready. The photographers first.
And Will jumps around to the other side of the car. Will travel around and get to him. Will, congratulations. The first words on the radio were, man, it's been a long time. How gratifying. It wasn't strategy, it wasn't fuel tires, it was a straight out dogfight between you and Simon Pagenaud.
Yeah, it was, the guys did a great job in the pits, got me out in front of the 28, and then obviously on that restart, I thought I really got to capitalize here, otherwise we're not going to win, and went down his outside. But got to thank Verizon, thank the fans. I mean, Verizon, man, it's been a long time since the number 12 has been in victory lane, so very happy for the whole Verizon crew.
So it's been over a year since you've been here in victory lane, and there's been a lot of adversity, especially yesterday, stuck on an escape road. Does this, you think, it's a big relief, but can this now build your confidence and keep this roll going?
Yeah, I think it just gives the whole crew some confidence, you know. I think we've all kind of been stumbling a little bit, you know, the whole group of us, and because it's been a tough start to the year, missed the first race and just had a few mishaps, and now we're there.
That battle that you had with Simon when you really had to push on the restart, that turned out to be the defining moment. How big of a risk was that for you?
Well, it wasn't a big risk because it was on the outside. Had I tried to go up the inside, it would have been a much bigger risk. I wasn't willing to take that with Simon because he's a championship leader. So if I was going to do it, I had to do it on the outside and cleanly, and there was a space and I went for it.
Well, he did it clean and made do for that, what would have been pole position. Alan?
So Will Power, with his 26th career win, second here at Detroit. He won the first of the twin races back in 2014. Gave Roger Penske his 6th win here on Belle Isle in his hometown. More post-race coming up from the Motor City.
I tell you what, given the weekend you had, we didn't know if we were going to see a victory lane at all this weekend. It's a heck of a weekend. Ryan Hunter-Reay comes over and gives him a high five.
wasn't all smooth sailing for Will Power today in Detroit. Early part of the race, he started on the softer compound tires, and after a opening laps crash, the race went for a while, and he slipped back a little bit. Then, with a bold move, that was Montoya getting by Will Power. Then the bold move as he got around Simon Pagenaud.
He lived on the limit today. He was passed, as you said, by Montoya. It was very close, but he earned it. He earned it the hard way. Passing a car, the lead car on the outside, is not an easy thing to get away with.
And a look at the final finishing order from the second Doolin Detroit race. It is Power, Pagenaud, Hunter-Reay, Newgarden, and Dixon, the top 5.
And Connor Daly did a nice run again today with the Honda power plant. Tony Kanaan looked like he might have the strategy, but didn't get it done. Marco Andretti, probably the best result here that we've seen for a little while.
Yeah, Marco started back way back in 22nd place. How about Castro Neves?
He had it. I really felt he was going to be the winner of the race, but as always, Detroit threw out that goofy joker card, and he was in the wrong place at the wrong time, but he was the quickest.
The wrinkle, the caution that came out just before Castro Neves was going to make his final pit stop, and it cost him a lot of ground in the championship. Let's hear from the runner-up today.
Simon Pagenaud just watched the replay a moment ago. Take us back to 20 laps to go in the restart. You and your teammate Will Power, how risky was it? That was pretty close.
It was a good fight. Will really was aggressive, but he made a great pass, and you know, I couldn't really do anything. I was really struggling on cold tires. My car was really good on long runs. As you could see, there was no degradation to the 22 car, but he got me. You know, that's what it is. I tried, but he had the outside lane. I got to tell you, he had to brake really late to make that one stick. But hey, you know, he had a lot of pace. We did too, but finished second today. It was a great championship day, and I got to tell you, I was thinking a bit about that. You know, Helio got really unlucky, unfortunately, and Dixon was behind. So I thought we should be trying, but not too hard. So very happy for Roger. You know, this is 1-2. This is Roger Penske hometown, and this is a Penske organization track. So pretty happy.
Hey, Simon, with 4 laps to go, you're like 1.7 seconds back. And then with 1 lap to go, you're 2 car lengths back. What are you thinking? Did you think you might have a shot at Will?
I tried, you know, you never give up until it's finished. So I tried. We had some push to pass left in the car, so I think that's why I got close. Car felt really good. Every lap it felt better. So and I tried to get close, see if I could push him to make a mistake on the last lap. You never know. Sometimes it works, but hey, I'm really happy with second today.
Hey, well done.
Thank you.
Simon Pagenaud finishes second and extends his points lead now 80 points over Scott Dixon. Let's go to Rick DeBrule.
Well, and the driver who had the view of that, of course, was Ryan Hunter-Reay, who finished third. And let's talk about this. I guess the good news, uneventful, no problems. You got to take something away from this on the positive side. It's a good, solid finish.
It's a solid finish for sure. You know, we had a pretty decent car today. Just congratulations to Team Penske. I mean, they were the class of the field this weekend. Those cars were hooked up. I was pretty happy in the end. We were able to keep up with them. You know, on the blacks, the longer we'd run, on the black Firestones, the longer we'd run, the better it seemed to be. So the more laps we ran, we were catching them more and more, but, you know, too little, too late. But they certainly had the class of the field this weekend. It's great to get that number 28 DHL Honda up front after such a, you know, heartbreaking end to the Indy 500 for us, since we had such a good car there. But yeah, it's nice to have 2 dry races in Detroit. That was different. The car was so low that you know, I think I've done some back damage right now. It's unreal how much bottoming there is and how rough this place is, but it makes for some great racing. So had a good time today. Just wish we could finish a few steps higher.
Strategies were all over the place. Let's ask, is this the strategy you thought you were going to be up front with, or did you have to change it anywhere along the line?
You know, apologies to the fans at home for trying to follow some of this stuff, because I'm in the car and I can't follow it sometimes. But what you have to keep in mind is that everybody's trying to, you know, pit at the right time based off of yellows. And the yellows you don't know that are coming. So what you have to do as a driver is absolutely push as hard as you can, no matter what. No matter if you're 15th in the field, you may be second on your strategy. And the pass you make for 14th could be the pass for the win. So no matter what, you have to be pushing 110% the entire race. There's no letting up. So it's nice to come away with the podium today.
All right, Ryan Hunter-Reay, third place. Doc?
Standing with Scott Dixon. Scott, how many times did you get hit today on the racetrack? I know you had a couple of times that really affected your car.
Yeah, the first one was pretty big, and I don't know if anybody caught it. I was complaining pretty hard on race control because as it went green, you know, Elio just swerved left and smashed the side of our car, and it bent the front suspension. And then we were just trying to hold on, and then I still got to look at what happened with one, and I tried to give him a little room, but realistically, I'm not sure where he was going there, and obviously cut our rear tire, and that hurt our sequence there. And then actually with about 10 or 15 to go, I actually hit the wall going through 7. So the car was pretty damaged today, but big thanks to Team Target. They did a hell of a job, and ultimately, you know, points not so bad considering you know, the day or the weekend that we had, but definitely we got to start making some strides here. You know, Pagenaud's been doing a fantastic job, and we got to start eating into that.
Despite the impacts a couple of times, Dixon able to drive back and finish 5th, and now move to 2nd in the point standings. Alan?
All right, Doc, we've talked championships a couple of times, so let's show you the gap now. And I'll just take the lesson from last year. With that double-point season finale available, anything's possible. And that 80-point gap, perhaps not as large as it might sound for a race that pays 50 points to win. The one that you really have to make note of is 7th place there. Remember, Will Power didn't even run the first race of the season.
And he moved up 5 spots today, as we can see there on the chart, which is pretty impressive. So look for him to continue the power that he has right now, pun intended, you guys, because I think he really is going to have an opportunity now with that confidence to go off and do well next week at Texas and going forward.
Look at Joseph Newgarden, 4th.
Yep, and finished 4th in the race today. Well, a good day for Chevrolet in the shadows of their headquarters building as Will Power put the bow ties in victory lane and earn the spoils of victory.
Pretty good run for Graham. 11th, he's not happy with that. But considering that he started the race with the American brake problem, and he winds up in 11th place here. Alexander Rodney, another solid run. Gabby Chavez up there to 13th place. Another one of the Neil Boyd cars. Emilio Castro Neves. Well, he got caught out on that last round of pit stop when the yellow came out. So he finishes in 14th. Carlos Munoz, 15th. Charlie Kimball, he was up there toward the front all day long. Winds up in 16th place. Taylor Lotion, a good qualifying run, but he wound up down in 17th after running up there in the top 5 for much of the early part of the race. Pretty good run for Spencer Piggott, who was up there with the big guys for quite some time. Jack Osworth, better race for him. He at least got past the first lap. Yesterday wasn't able to start the race because of mechanical problems. Mechanical problems waylay him, but this time, late in the race, as he stops on the back straightaway, there's Juan Pablo Montoya. His crash relegates him to a 20th place finish. These two guys, they didn't make it past the first corner. James Hinchcliffe, who was forced into the outside wall going down into turn number 1, and then Max Chilton had no place to go, and ran into the back of Hinchcliffe. Those two wind up 21st and 22nd. So that's the way that the second of the duel wind up. And it was entertaining from beginning to end. There you see Will Power back, getting ready to make his way up onto the victory podium. The clouds, well, they're puffy. Some of them are relatively dark. But for a day that, like a Padre, Larry Hendrick continued to tell me, well, it's in Ann Arbor, it's in Ypsilanti, it's in the eastern part of Detroit. Well, it's a very good race here to be sure. There you see the winning team down in the victory podium area. The winning car, the number 12, Chevrolet Power on board that Verizon sponsored machine. And Will Power be gathering in his well-got goods, I guess you would say, perhaps. Will Power, Simon Pagenaud, and Ryan Hunter-Reay. That is going to be our podium coming up here. We would like to thank everybody who has been here while we have a chance. Wait for Larry Henry to start his part of the program down at Victory Lane. It's been a great weekend. The crowd absolutely tremendous. And we really appreciate the folks who fell out. We appreciate the workers who make it able for us to enjoy the sport that we all love.
Apologize, apparently having some troubles with Jan's microphone. Hope to hear from he and Joseph Newgarden in a moment as Will Power makes his way over to the victory podium and the ceremonies continue. For all of the discussions of rain this week, pointed out by Ryan Hunter-Ray, a dry race and a dry race yesterday, so that was a great thing here for all of the fans and the racers. More post-race coming up. Our best people are on it. It might not be a 9-second fuel stop, but it'll be pretty close. Back to the Motor City in a minute.
Well done. Second to last yellow. Red.
Red, we're starting on Will. You guys go ahead. Go.
As the photos and the hat dance take shape over by the victory podium for Will Power and the Penske team, our pit crew's done the job. Let's go back down to Jan.
All right, we'll give that a try again. We're going to talk to Joseph Newgarden, who had a great day today, an aggressive day. Tire marks on the side of the car. You were battling Will Power right behind us. You were on the grass. How exciting was that for you?
It was a tough day. You know, I mean, 2 in a row is always difficult for a race weekend. I want to just thank Chevrolet for everything they've done for us. It's great to be back in Detroit. It's really a cool city, cool racetrack to come to. So, you know, great to get 2 wins for Chevrolet. Congrats to Will. It was tight here, like you said. You know, I tried to go for a move. I thought I had a run, and man, he went deep and started to close the door, and I tried to get out of it, and I think it was probably more my fault. And same thing in turn 3 with Charlie. I think more my mistake trying to race him and understeered into him a little bit. Thankfully, my car held up, but I got a great crew with ECR. They gave me great cars, and thanks to all my boys that have been working so hard this weekend.
All right, thank you. Enjoyed watching.
Appreciate it.
And he picked up a position in the championship by 1. Rick?
Well, yesterday, Connor Daly used some strategy to end up on the podium. No podium today, but 6th place. You have to be happy with that. But more importantly, you said you had fun racing the entire time. Why?
Yeah, I mean, it was fun. I mean, when you have a car to compete, you know, that's always fun. I'm just really upset we didn't get to start where we were supposed to start. And then who knows? But I mean, gosh, great weekend for the points. This Jonathan Bird's Hospitality and Restaurant Group Cancer Treatment Centers of America car was pretty awesome. I mean, we had a great weekend.
All right, can't knock that. And check out his hands. Blisters on this side, blisters on that side. That's what it takes to be a race car driver here in Detroit.
Hard-working man on a tough course, but a great weekend for Connor Daly with a couple of really terrific results here in Detroit. So as we wind down our ABC coverage of the Verizon IndyCar Series for 2016, we talked about the 100th Indianapolis 500 for so long. The month of May came and went. The lasting memory that you'll take from what we've seen so far in 2016 is what?
I have to go back to the moment that we figured out that Alexander Rossi was going to win the Indy 500. We were all staring at the screen with our mouth open saying, is this really happening?
Yeah.
I think for me, it's nice to see that Honda's back on board because, yes, they've won the Indianapolis 500, but last year they weren't as competitive as we expected them to be. So now they came out with a new aero package, some engine updates, and we both got manufacturers that are going to be competitive again. So that's what I look forward to. And it's nice to see Andretti Autosport back up to the front beam, top 3 teams, I guess I'll call it right now, which is sort of cool, and look for them to do some great things for the rest of the year.
So let's project forward. Pick a champion for me. At the end of this season, who's your championship pick?
Well, you have to say Simon Pagenaud because not only is he doing a great job driving for one of the best teams, but he's got that large point lead. But as you mentioned before, you know, double points at the end of the season, that can all go away. You have to get to the end of the season first.
I hate to do this. Right at the last moment that I'm in TV with you,
all right.
I have to agree with you, Scott.
It's been a good day.
Now, you've been waiting all year for that, haven't
Just
you?
to hear that
I
agreement.
agree with you.
Yeah, this is going to be on replay at home for me a lot.
Well, you can just keep pushing that button.
There you
Well, from what we've seen so far in the season, we project out that it's going to be a terrific run over the summer and to the championship deciding race out west in California. We certainly wish our colleagues at NBCSN the best as they take you along the trip. Thank all the drivers, teams, strategists, race promoters for all of their help throughout our coverage this season. Thank our incredibly hardworking crew who do so much to make the pictures and the sounds happen for you on these races. And of course, we thank you for watching and hope that you've enjoyed our IndyCar Series coverage this year on ABC. Up next is World News or your local news, except on the West Coast. So for Scott Goodyear and Eddie Cheever, Dr. Jerry Punch, Rick DeBoule, and Jan Beekes, I'm Alan Bestwick. We have enjoyed so much being with you for these races throughout the first months of this year and look forward to when we do it again at the beginning part of next season, leading up to, of course, the 101st running of the greatest spectacle in racing, the Indianapolis 500-mile race. Here this weekend in Detroit, 2 very different races. One, a strategy decider won by Sebastian Bourdais. The other, a flat-out sprint to the finish, taken by Will Power, your winner in the second duel in Detroit. This is not a repeat. We're ready for the second of the duel in Detroit races. Contact on the front stretch.
Carlos was an idiot.
One heck of a battle between Dixon and Montoya.
So the lead now in the hands of Will Power.
This is an impeccable drive.
His first win since the first race of May 2015. Will Power wins it in Detroit.